I'm talking about the seemingly growing racial undercurrent at the University of California at San Diego. The campus has been a tempest of late, students protesting what some consider racially insensitive incidents, like a student-organized party, inviting participants to dress, quote, ghetto style. Then the discovery of a noose hung in the campus library. The big question here is, how deep does the school's racism go? And are we only skimming the surface, or is the criticism superficial? Let's talk about this one. Let's talk it out and clarify any possible misconceptions that could muddy the discussion and hopefully find a teachable moment along the way. Joining us live from San Diego this morning, David Richardson. He's the president of the Black Student Union on the UCSD campus, and Sarah Clark Kaplan. She's an assistant professor of ethnic studies at the university. Great to have you both. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Kara.
Thanks for having us.
You bet. Well, I want to start off and ask you both about this. You know, the latest wrinkle to what's happening on the campus, the noose that was hung by a student. Well, we've now found out it was a minority student that came forward and said that they hung it. Does it change the tact of this discussion, and should it? Richard, let's start with you.
David, by the way.
David, I'm sorry. I apologize,
yeah,
David.
No worry about it. I didn't actually hear that it was a minority student, but it definitely doesn't change, you know, the effects that it had on the campus community and on the climate. It doesn't. I don't think it matters on, you know, what type of person does it. I just feel like the act, you know, was harmful in itself, and actions need to be taken, you know, to ensure that something like this doesn't happen again, because it does affect, you know, communities on our campus, and it does affect, you know, the social and academic, you know, welfare of the students on campus. So,
Sarah,
it definitely doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter to you, Sarah. What about you? Because not only did the story break that it was a minority student that did hang that noose up there in the library, now there's talk that it was possibly a black fraternity boy that encouraged the Pike frat, to do this Compton cookout, you know, dress ghetto style. I mean, either way, it's totally offensive, but does that change the discussion here, what's happening on campus, if indeed it turns out that minorities are involved with these moves or these incidents that are highly insensitive?
You know, I think one of the things that as a scholar of ethnic studies I constantly try to remind people is that racism isn't like being a hockey player or being a baseball player. You're not a racist. It's not as if we can sort of point to individual, ostensibly white people who do bad things and are therefore racist. What we're talking about are a broader set of campus climate issues and concerns, a set of beliefs that are not about one's individual identity as much as they are about maintaining a set of stereotypes and really deeply degrading ideas about African Americans. And I think, you know, regardless of the race of the person who hung the noose, and we could have a longer conversation about the frat party and whether, in fact, this sort of story about the African American encourager is true. But I think that, you know, we talk about the noose, the real question is, what does it mean that we have a campus climate where even students of other racial minorities don't understand that nooses are acts of racial violence and terrorism?
Right, no matter what your color. David, let me ask you, because when the tension built up, a teach-in was called. The chancellor came forward and said, we're all going to come together, we're going to talk about this, we're going to have a teach-in. And there were people that showed up from all over the place, all over the state, in addition to you and other students. But when you got there, you decided not to participate in that teach-in. You walked out. Tell me why you did that. Why didn't you stay and engage in a fruitful discussion while there were so many people there with open ears?
Okay, well, before the teaching, the university-sponsored teaching, there was actually a press conference held by the students. So that's part of the reason why there are so many students out there for the teaching. But initially, when we found out about the teaching, we were a little upset. We were a little dissatisfied, because we feel like a teach-in is not something a chancellor of a university should hold. A teach-in is for student organizations. A teach-in is for grassroots organizing. A teach-in is for people who don't have resources to put a few hundred students in a lecture hall, you know, and we feel like a 2-hour teaching is not going to do it justice. A 2-hour teaching is not going to fully educate the community or educate the campus on why these issues, you know, affect our communities and why they have a detrimental effect on our education and our well-being on the campus. So we feel like Chancellor Fox should have definitely taken more active measures in trying to alleviate some of the tensions and some of the pressures on the students and also the campus climate. So yeah, the teaching, we felt like we could do our own justice and walk out, you know, have our own teaching and educate, you know, our own students about how we feel as students, as opposed to, you know, some university structure, university put together teaching.
All right, well, let's push forward here and talk about solutions. Chancellor Mary Ann Fox, we did reach out to her, and she declined an on-camera interview for this segment. But there was a website that was put together called Battle Hate, and she made a statement on that website. Let's take a listen to part of that.
I have personally met with students today and over the last several days, and we are making significant changes based on the Black Student Union's recommendations. I'm extremely proud of our students and other members of our campus community who have strongly and respectfully expressed their outrage over these incidents.
David, what are those recommendations, and are you seeing some of those recommendations being put forward now?
Yes. Okay. Well, some of the recommendations have to deal with you know, student-initiated access and outreach programs that the students create and coordinate themselves, along with a task force to hire more African-American faculty on the campus. We feel like if we had more African-American faculty, it'll be a better learning academic environment for, you know, the Black community on campus. Right now we have very few and very few tenured faculty at that, so we'd like to increase that number, and hopefully that would attract more African American students on our campus, and it'll help the overall, you know, campus climate and environment. And not just African American faculty, other minority faculty and other faculty from other underrepresented, underserved communities as well.
Well, and we would love to see more professors like Sarah Clark Kaplan, that's for sure. She is a shining star on that campus, no doubt. And Sarah, I would love for you to weigh in on this because, you know, I don't want this to just be a discussion about anger and going back and look at these incidents, but moving forward. And I mean, this is your classroom right here. Your class study is happening right there on campus live and with thousands of students. How do you move forward in a positive manner? How do you make a change here? How do you try and help the healing process as this has all come to the surface?
Well, I think that one of the most important things for us to remember is that before we even begin healing, we need to really do that thing called learning, right? And in order for us to really learn from this, we need to have the resources available for every student on the campus to understand the continuing issues of race in the United States and across the world. And so in order for us to even begin the healing, we really need to do our work as administrators and as educators and as the students have shown us at every step of the process, even on the ground, to teach every student on the campus why issues of social justice and equity still matter today. That even in the sort of post-Obama era, as everyone likes to say, this is still a country in which racial difference still often affects people's outcomes, their cultural background, and their experiences. And it's our job as educators, as administrators, to make sure that students have the information that they need to be part of creating a campus climate that is welcoming and hospitable to everyone. And I think the students have now done the work of getting us the resources that we need to do that, from increasing yield and retention for students to increasing faculty and research on these issues. And now it's our job as administrators and as faculty to take up the reins and really use those resources to create the kind of UCSD we all know we can have.